Welcome to the brand new Draymond Green Show YouTube channel. Hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our content. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Draymond Green Show. The second round of the NBA draft just ended, which is obviously the best round of the NBA draft. All the stars come out of the second round. So we'll discuss that. No, we'll discuss the entire draft. Some exciting things about the draft, not so much on some other parts, but we'll get into that. Mikal Bridges trade, a few more things going on around the NBA that we will discuss. But first,
get ready for a great night of fights. UFC 303. It can be even bigger if you sign up. You know it doesn't take long to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, the official sports betting partner of the UFC. Make it simple. Go to DraftKings, select a fighter, place your first bet. DraftKings, new customers, all you have to do is bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Okay, so you just download the app now. It takes 90 seconds. Do it on your phone. It takes 90 seconds. Put in the code Colin. That would be me, COLIN. And there you go. $5, you get $150. That's a pretty sweet deal. DraftKings, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Have a great summer.
The 2024 NBA draft has concluded, and the number one pick was Zachary Ricochet. Second pick in a row from France to be, second number one overall pick from France. Only the fourth, I think, in history. There's that, and everybody's like, oh, man, the France and Europe is taking over the NBA. And it did seem that way in that draft last night and today. But might I remind you, y'all said this was the weakest draft in recent history. So don't tell me France is taking over the NBA, but because they had so many players drafted this year, or that international, overseas, however you want to categorize it. Don't tell me that they're taking over the NBA and they're far more superior in the NBA because they had a lot of players drafted. And what even before the draft started was kind of dubbed as the worst draft of the last 15 years. You cannot then say, because that draft was dominated by European players or French players, that they're now superior and they're taking over the NBA. That actually just doesn't make sense to me. Nonetheless, there is this topic of conversation that the European countries are catching up to the Americans. And quite frankly, I think you'll see very soon in the Olympics how the European countries definitely have put out players, Joker, Luka, as of late, those two, Wemby, they have put out some generational talents as of late, for sure. No debating that. Nobody's arguing that. But there's this big debate on Europe's taking over the NBA, and I just don't agree with that. Number one, Giannis. Number one, I'm not sure we've still reached the day of where a European guy is the face of the NBA, because the NBA is an American league. And I'm just not sure we've hopped that hurdle yet. But we will soon see, or you all will see, because I know the real, how America still dominates. And by the way, when you look at domination, you can't just also look at this star and that star. You have to look at the whole body of work. And if you look at the whole body of work of the U.S. players, U.S.-born players in the NBA right now, the superstars of the NBA and the non-superstars that are from Europe, and the superstars from America and the non-superstars from America, it's not even close, the non-superstars. The non-superstars from Europe and the non-superstars from America isn't even close. Actually isn't even discussion. So that also plays a part in who's superior and all this. You get the talking heads I'm telling you, the U.S.-born players better watch out because Luka is once in a generation. That's why all his stats, line up to LeBron's this thus far in the career. Like he's once in a lifetime for sure. Joker, Giannis for sure. But you got to go through the whole body of work. And so I'm looking forward to that. Please stop with they're taking over the league and at the same time saying it's the worst draft in recent history, because those two things they don't make sense. If I had to say who won the draft to me was the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the reason the Minnesota Timberwolves won the draft is because they drafted their point guard of the future in Rob Dillingham, who I think is a very special player who some of those teams at the top of the draft were afraid of, because he got swag and he got game, and they don't know if his game is going to fit into their systems that don't work and get them fired. When you can just get a really good player who can score the basketball, Steph Curry, and figure out how the system works for him, and then all of a sudden the franchise is in territory that it's never been in before. But, at times we run into these guards with swag that they just don't fit in the system. And so teams run away from them. And there's going to be some teams that's going to regret passing Rob Dillingham because he's the best pure scorer in that draft. He wants to be a great pro. If you talk to the young man off the court, great young man, but y'all probably don't know that because you just judge by how he bounced around the court in this game. Very smart young man. Looking for the game, want the knowledge. And now he about to go play behind Mike Conley, a young Anthony Edwards who he's about to be running mates with for the next 10 years. And I'm just not sure many backcourts going to want to see him and Ant-Man. Good luck. So with him, and then Terrence Shannon Jr., who had an incredible 2 years at Illinois after leaving Texas Tech, goes and have an incredible career at Illinois, falls in the draft because he gets lied on. Then he falls in the draft. Everybody run away from him. Minnesota sitting right there, 27. We'll take him. Guess what? Because the way Minnesota's roster is right now, he may help Minnesota next year more than Rob. Because he's a big wing, can shoot the ball, can get downhill, get to the free throw line, and he can check. And when you got big wings that can check in this league, Jaden McDaniels, they play. By the way, they make a lot of money. So Minnesota won the draft to me. Look what they just did. After coming off of Western Conference Finals, look what they just did. I like it. Got to give Tim Connolly a lot of credit. He keep doing special things. And listen, I'm a tough critic. You got to do special things over and over again for me to be like, wow. And I've always respected Tim because you see the work he's put in, but he just continues to snatch more and more respect. Like, continues to snatch more and more respect. Because what he just did in that draft, like, he couldn't have nailed those two picks better. So Minnesota won the draft to me. And quite frankly, Minnesota didn't need to win the draft. But they won the draft. And that's a team that's poised to try to compete for a championship, and you got to respect it. Got to respect that. So, shout out to Minnesota. I think Zach Edey at number 9 was a great pick by the Grizzlies, and the reason I think so is because the Grizzlies need a center. They have to have a center. Jaren's not a center. Jaren's a power forward. And when you allow Jaren to roam with a great rim protector behind him, Jaren is going to be right back in the Defensive Player of the Year rankings next year because he's going to be able to do what he's special at, get weak side blocks, roam around, plug. And that's going to be great. And he don't have to worry about being the main rim protector. And that's going to unlock Jaren defensively again. Zach, I also think for the Grizzlies, it's a low reward, low risk, high reward pick. I think it's a very low risk, high reward pick because, quite frankly, kid, what did he win? Back-to-back National Player of the Year? Like, nobody's judging you for taking him with the 9th pick. Like, nobody's like, oh, you shouldn't have. Like, Edey's kind of that secret in the draft, or not necessarily secret, but he's kind of that unknown, I would say, in the draft of where, like, you don't know if his size is going to translate. Like, do he move well enough? Quite frankly, I think what he does is going to translate. But, like, bigs in the NBA today is going back to that. Is it not? Like, but if it does and you get him and he pan out, you look great. And you pair him young. You get 4 years on a low contract with now Jaren making the big money and Ja making the big money and Desmond making the big money. So I like that pick a lot. I like that pick a lot for the Grizzlies. I think he'll be ready to go right now. Senior, played for Matt Painter in the Big Ten, physical, gonna be tough. Gonna know his stuff because we from the Big Ten, that's what we do. I like the pick. I like that pick a lot, and I think that pick is going to be huge for the Grizzlies, and not many people is talking about it, but I really like that pick. Lakers had a very interesting pick. Dalton Knecht. I thought I was gonna say Bronny, huh? Look, we getting to that. Hold your horses. I like that kid a lot. He's a decent athlete, can shoot the ball, got great size. Playing with that size alongside Edey and Bron that can shoot the ball and score the ball the way he can. I think JJ is going to run him off screens because that's who JJ was. So JJ is going to be looking for that. And I think if he can come off screens, which he showed some at Tennessee, come off screens, firing and turning the corner and getting downhill, I think that's very beneficial. So I like that pick for them. And then that leads us to Bronny, which, number one, congratulations to Bronny, to Bron, Vanna, the James gang, Z, Bryce. Congrats to them. I mean, obviously, we all know what Bronny went through a year ago, and to be here today, getting drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers with the 55th pick, will be the first ever father-son duo to play in the NBA. Absolutely incredible. To go through that and make it back from that and be within the NBA within a year, like, is a testament to his drive and work ethic. And I actually think Bronny is going to end up being a better pro than a lot of these players in this draft because has the athleticism, has the basketball IQ, plays the game the right way. I think he's going to be a good shooter in the NBA. And I think a lot of people judge Bronny off of his production last year at USC, which is a little skewed because, for anybody coming back in the middle of a season and trying to play when everybody's in tip-top shape is hard. To do that as a newcomer, as a freshman, as a rookie, miss training camp, miss some of the season, and you come in, it's nearly impossible. He did it. And I think also when you look at the team that he was on, Isaiah Collier, who was a first-round pick, is a point guard. It's more of a scorer first point guard, getting downhill. And Bronny's a point guard, playing the two, because Isaiah's number one pick in the class. That's how these things work. Number one player in the class coming out of high school. So he's going to get the point guard spot and you're going to move Bronny off the ball. And in basketball, we always tend to think like positions don't matter. But I would love to see you take a wide receiver and put him at offensive tackle. Or like take the center and put them at quarterback. Like, I would love to see you do that. But in basketball, sometimes we like, oh, it don't matter. Like, but if you're a true point guard and somebody take you off the ball, it matters. Ask Josh Giddey. Like, when you're a true point guard and you didn't have to go play off the ball, it's different, especially when you don't have a point guard that's feeding you. A point guard that or even a point guard that plays the point guard position the way you play the point. And so I think some of that is being overblown, like the production at USC. I think people don't look at those things that matters. Nonetheless, I'm just going to take the bet that this kid works hard, which he does. He has LeBron James DNA, and I'm going to take the bet on that. Like, it makes sense. And then you watch him play, and he's a good basketball player. I'm going to take that bet because, A, you got him at 55. So if he even becomes a rotational player, you did great. And I think he could possibly become a rotational player in the next 2 years. So shout out to Bronny. Shout out to the James gang. Absolutely incredible to see him drafted. Happy as hell for him, for them. To see that, like, it's nuts. I remember when Bron first said it 3-4 years ago, like, I want to play with you. Like, man, what? Like, you ain't going to be playing. Like, they did it. So shout out to them, man. That's super dope. As a 12-year NBA veteran, recovery is very important to me. As I continue to get a little older, the body just doesn't bounce back the way it used to. So I'm a big fan of Hyper Ice, especially their Normatec boots. What's great about the new Normatec Elite is that they ditched all the extra hoses and control units from the old model. This one is fully self-contained with a small set of buttons to select your compression level. Super easy to travel with and to get set up after a hard workout or a big game. On top of that, the Normatec Elite packs 4 hours of battery life. That's enough juice to get full leg compression cycles in before games, after games, and even on the plane. And don't get me started on the tech inside this thing. Hyper Ice has been pioneering recovery science for years, and the brand new Normatec Elite takes it to another dimension with 7 different compression levels to choose from. But it's not just for pro athletes. Everyone can get their hands on these to help with recovery, increasing circulation, and reducing swelling in the lower body. Shop all your warm-up and recovery needs at hyperice.com. Use code Draymond for 15% off your order today. Exclusions apply. Nets trade Mikal Bridges to the Knicks for 5 first-round picks, or 5 first-rounders, plus pick swaps. I was a little shocked. I was shocked because it's crazy when Mikal got traded to the Nets from Phoenix, everybody kind of knew the Nets would at some point go into this rebuild that they just went into. And so everybody was kind of talking about what they would trade for Mikal Bridges. And you hear like 4 first-round picks, 5 first-round picks would be like the cost of the trade. And then the Rudy Gobert trade happened. And when the Rudy Gobert trade happened, initially in the first year of it, it didn't look like it was working. And everybody gives up on things extremely fast in this day and age that we live in. And so it didn't look like it was successful. So then everybody pulled back on like the draft picks, like, whoa, like they just took too many draft picks away. That's a heist. And then it kind of reset the market. So then in turn, you see how many picks Damian Lillard got traded for last year, which was like 2 first-round picks, I want to say, plus Jrue Holiday. But we knew Portland didn't necessarily want Jrue Holiday. What they wanted was the picks. They then flipped Jrue Holiday for some players and some picks. But the market had been reset. And now with the Mikal Bridges trade, it's went right back up to the amount of picks that Rudy Gobert was traded for, strictly due to the success that the Minnesota Timberwolves just had. So they go to the conference finals, have a tough conference finals, but everybody thought for a second like, yo, this team might win the finals. And so we always talk about the copycat league, and look at that. In an indirect way, you see it again, the copycat league. And so the Knicks give up a bunch of picks, and what the Knicks essentially just did was they pretty much just said they're going for it now. And I think Mikal Bridges is one of the better wing players in our league. Great two-way player. He defends extremely well, shoot the ball extremely well. I thought in in Brooklyn the second year, he got caught with the ball in his hands too much. And I don't think that's where he's at his best. I think he has the ball, and when he has the ball, he can make plays. But I thought the ball was kind of in his hand a bit too much that second year. And I thought it hindered his play a little bit. Now he'll be back at his kind of his normal position where, he catching and shooting, he catching, attacking the closeouts. And I think that best suits him, allows him to play his best basketball. We know he can do something with the ball, and so it's always good to have those skills when you need to get to it. But I think he's better suited, and more of it is like his role in Phoenix, but at a much higher volume. Like, use him more within your offense for sure, but just coming down, calling for a pick and roll every time, I don't think that's where he's best suited. Nonetheless, anyway, the New York Knicks went for it, and they just mortgaged off their future, saying, we got it right now. And that's been a hot topic here on the podcast during the playoffs, because I told y'all what I thought about the New York Knicks. And I've had a bunch of New York Knicks fans come up to me over the last, let's see, what it's been since the New York Knicks lost, maybe a month. It's over the last month, like, you were wrong about the Knicks. I was at a friend's wedding this weekend, actually in New York. And the best friend of the groom since elementary school, she's a New York Knicks fan, big time New York Knicks fan. And we had a little thing back and forth for a while where she tried to tell me, like, you were wrong about my Knicks. I said, who was wrong? And she was like, you were wrong because blah, blah, blah. I said, no, but the Knicks lost in the second round. So I was kind of right. And she was like, no, such and such got hurt. And when OG Anunoby plays, we're 26-6 and blah, blah, blah. And this person was hurt and that person was hurt. And I said, well, I didn't necessarily say y'all were going to be healthy or hurt. I said I didn't think y'all would get much further. So I was right. And she went on this whole thing back and forth for a while. And like ultimately she ended up telling me I was right, which was true. But anyway, which brings us, to this discussion. I think adding Mikal Bridges, re-signing OG Anunoby to a 5-year, $213 million contract, I think those are great things that makes that team better. And I think that team is going to be tough because they're going to defend. We know Tibbs teams are going to defend. They got offensive weapons. But I ultimately don't think that team gets over the hump still. And so if the team doesn't get over the hump, say in 2 years, then everybody in the NBA get really impatient, like, it ain't working. We got to make moves. And then now you're looking to trade some of those guys to get some picks back in because you move on to where the Knicks were 4 or 5 years ago, which was 4 or 5 years away from being 4 or 5 years away. And so now the Knicks are in a space where they're going for it, and I respect it. I think, you got to go for it at some point. But what just happened with the trade was that, if this doesn't work in 2 to 3 years, the Knicks will be rebuilding again because they traded all their picks away, and then they'll be trying to trade those guys to get picks back in. And that's kind of how it all plays out. And I'm sorry to the Knicks fans, but that's how I actually think it's going to play out. And I don't think it's any indictment to Mikal, who I think is like a top-tier player in the NBA. You got tiers, but damn good player. Jalen Brunson, who's All-NBA. Julius, who's been All-NBA. Dante, nothing but love for Dante. OG, who's a champion. It's actually no indictment on any of those guys. I just don't think that group is good enough to beat Boston. Like, ultimately, you're building a team that you hope can beat Boston. And I don't think that team is going to beat Boston. So you got like a year or two like the Houston Rockets. I don't know if y'all remember the Rockets of old when we was on our run. I always talk to y'all about them because they're very interesting. You got like 2 years and then it's like, that didn't work and Clint Capella gone. Like, and the first domino fall. And once the first domino fall, that's it. It's going from there. And so that's what I kind of think is going to happen. That's how I see it playing out. If it don't work, that's exactly how it will play out. So you heard it here first. Nonetheless, I think those are great moves by the Knicks. I just don't think they quite get you over the hump, which then you have to say, looking down the road. But, I get it because if you're the front office, you got to swing because if not, you're going to get fired because we play in this league that only really 4 to 5 teams want to win. Everybody say they want to win. And then a few more than the 4 or 5 will act like they want to win. But the reality is every year, only really 4 to 5 teams really want to win a championship. And y'all like, everybody want to win. I don't get that. I'm not going to take the time on this podcast to explain to you what I mean by that. Just know only 4 to 5 teams want to win per year for real, doing everything they can do to win. But for some reason, coaches get fired fast like nobody's tomorrow in this league. GMs get fired after they get done firing the coach a time or two to save their own ass. And it's all kind of like smoke and mirrors because everybody really not trying to win. So if a team go to the playoffs a couple years in a row and get to like the second round, if they get to like the second round or first round exit, second round exit, even mix in a conference finals here and there, then a year or two later, if they don't do the same thing, they get fired. But they be getting fired by these teams that don't really want to win. And so it's a very interesting dynamic in the NBA. I've just been thinking about this a lot. Like, why so many coaches get fired? They get fired because the GM throw them under the bus to save his ass. All right, then the GM going to get fired shortly after that. And it's just like this ongoing cycle. But you see like all of these bad teams who really don't win the championships be the teams that's firing their coaches. And so in a league where that happens, that's what goes on with these teams. Everybody overreacts, and it happens fast. So they got 2 years. They on the clock. New York Knicks fans.
In the next 3 years, do the New York Knicks make it to the NBA Finals, yes or no?
No. I do not think so. No. Health is important. Health is very important. And I'll tell you now, I don't want to see that team in the regular season because they are going to be playing harder than nobody's tomorrow. I kid you not, that team defensively is going – by the way, defensively, that team is going to be tough. Like, tough. And playing against a team like that during the regular season when you really don't got time to, like, prepare and then you go up against that defense, man, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Like that, they would not shock me if they get a number 1 seed, number 2 seed. Wouldn't shock at all. But ultimately, I think when it comes down to winning a championship, you have to have guys who can get a bucket by any means necessary on anybody. I don't care who your defensive adjustment is, who you go to, that guy got to be able to get a bucket on him in order to carry a team to a championship. And, like, they're guys you can make it tough on. And so I don't think so. That's just my opinion. I'm sorry, Knicks fans, they'll be like, you're a hater. Like, no, I just got an opinion, and that's it. Before we get out of here, we're going to talk top 5 picks. And no, not top 5 picks of the NBA draft. Top 5 second-round picks, that is. because that is important. Before we get out of it, I saw one of the funniest things on Twitter. I may start looking for these on the show. Kevin Durant. I'm going to read it to you because there's no point in me butchering it. Kevin Durant, some dude goes, SJ Basketball 8, at SJ Basketball 8, says, KD so sorry. Look at what his reputation is now. LOL. KD retweets him and go, well, check ball then. And I thought that was hilarious because so many fans think that they could just do, like, who are you to call Kevin Durant sorry? Like, the things that fans actually say is crazy. So I'm going to start calling you out on this show. And by the way, everybody going to be like, K is sensitive. Kevin's sensitive. He responded to casual, but all he said was check ball. And it's very true, by the way. You said I'm sorry, at least from the neighborhood I come from. If you say I'm sorry, check up. Like, we don't need to keep talking about it. You don't need to say how sorry I am. I don't need to say how sorry back you. Check up. Check ball then. I thought that was a hilarious tweet that I came across just for some of these fans who be talking crazy. So we're going to start highlighting y'all on this show. But let's get into this top 5 pick. The top 5 second rounders. My top 5 second rounders. So I'm going to give you a list of second rounders. You got Joker, Dennis Rodman, Manu, yours truly, Marc Gasol, Tony Kukoc, Gilbert Arenas, Paul Millsap, Chris Middleton, Isaiah Thomas from Washington. Not Isaiah Thomas. Mo Cheeks, Draymond Green show, Isaiah Thomas. Not that one. Yeah, come on, Draymond Green show. Not Bad Boys, Isaiah Thomas. That's a better way of saying it. My fault, Zeke. Doc Rivers, Jeff Hornacek, Jalen Brunson, just to name a few. I think Pascal was the end of the first round. But yeah, those are some second round picks. So my top 5, Joker, obviously, Dennis Rodman, Manu, Marc Gasol, and yours truly. No question. Yeah, that would be my top 5 second round picks. I think Jalen Brunson, if he continues to play the way that he's playing, I think he has a chance to creep up there. But that's my top 5 right now. Signing off, yours truly. That's a wrap from this episode of the Draymond Green Show. Congrats to all of those 58 guys that got drafted. Enjoy it. Tomorrow, it don't mean shit. You got to go put your flag in the ground, earn your spot, because they only care how long you get drafted for a day. And then we all start on the even playing field and may the best man win. And I done seen some of those top picks not win. So don't think it's a guaranteed if you up there, because you got a Draymond Green coming from a 35th pick that wants the spot. So good luck to all those guys. Congratulations to them and their families. It's a great day. Enjoy it. But tomorrow, lock in. Peace.